I'll let Esther introduce herself and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Amber. My name's Esther. I was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's in 2023. But the first time a neurologist mentioned it was in 2021. But as I'm sure is the experience with a lot of us with early onset, especially women, it takes a long time for us to get diagnosed. Actually, 2 years at least more than men, which is kind of interesting. I'm a mom. I had a career, and but I'm no longer doing that anymore. I left my paid work, as my husband says, for unpaid work that I put as much, if not more, time and effort into because I'm super passionate about it. And Amber and I met on TikTok. We are both TikTokers. I watched one of her TikToks and I was like, I know that road. Girl, are you in El Paso? And she was like, yes. I'm like, oh my gosh. So she's like, I say my friend in real life. I've actually like given her a hug and stuff. And that's awesome. I feel super blessed that that sort of serendipitous thing happened to me and that I'm able to call her my friend.
Ditto. So, I work right now. I'm not at work. I'm recovering from surgery. I got the battery replaced on my deep brain stimulation. So I'm out on leave right now, recovering and doing physical therapy and all that fun stuff. But typically, I am a manager at a financial institution. And as most of you guys may know, that whenever you talk to a manager, it's not because you're happy, uh, generally. So anxiety has a big trigger on my symptoms. So on top of being a manager and having to run the show, and whenever I have to interact with somebody, it amps up my symptoms. I don't know if anybody else experiences this, if anybody else wants to chime in on this. Um, but on top of that, I have a 45-minute commute. I basically drive from my house to Esther's house every
Yeah.
day, which takes about 45 minutes. And driving causes anxiety and causes my symptoms to act up. So that alone, by the time I get there, I'm all worked up. By the time I get home, I'm worked up for the kids. So it's fun. It's interesting.
It's kind of like
Um,
one thing after another. It's like
yes,
you're driving, then there's the kids, and there's all this. Yeah, I feel that all
yeah.
the time. Yeah.
It's never ending. Right now, I was telling Esther before the call that I'm actually not on my meds right now because I am not stressed out, and I've been able to manage without my meds and just this DBS. But when I go back to work, I'm having to take them every 2 hours just
Yeah.
because
Wow.
everything
Big
that
difference.
comes into life when I'm at work.
Yeah, Amber, that
So
your story totally resonates with me and also Esther, your story just, that takes a while to get diagnosed, right? So I was diagnosed with anxiety and treated for several years, which helped a little, but not a whole lot because I was experiencing, Amber, what you were experiencing, just the drive into work. And a stressful job, and then I would feel worse and it would accumulate. And it actually took me about 2 months after diagnosis laying on the couch to feel better.
Mm.
oh
And
yeah, I mean,
it's
I get home
it
from work and I don't want to do anything. I'm
right.
dead to the world.
Well, and you're also raising kids, and I was raising teenagers in
Yeah.
my home when I was diagnosed. So I love teenagers. I love other people's teenagers more
You
sometimes than my own. So
can have mine.
I would take them for a while, Amber. You know I would.
And I know like Esther was mentioning that she's not working right now, but I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, Esther.
Yeah.
You
So
do way
I
more now than you did when you were at work, I'm sure of it.
this is exactly, the catch 22 with it because, I had the same problem with you. So just geographically, she actually is driving over a mountain, and nothing gets me more anxiety than driving over that mountain, like in a mountain pass. But I was also commuting to the other side of town, and in the beginning, I had a lot of problems with drowsiness with my medication. And I was literally like falling asleep at my desk, falling asleep in my car, at lunch, falling asleep driving. And so I came home one day and I told my husband, I just don't feel safe driving I can't, I don't want to go back to work. And he was like, that's okay. Like, just stay home with the kids. I'm really, really, really fortunate that financially we were able to do that. Um, and what I noticed, and I hate to talk about this because it's just it's such a shame, but I had whole entire constellations of symptoms that disappeared when I stopped working just because of the stress of it. The one I always talk about is I used to get numbness in my face. And that I
Mm.
only get when I'm under like really, really high levels of stress. And that just, and the same thing, I would come home and I would just collapse. And I have my kids, I now officially, as of last week, have two teenagers. My youngest turned 13 last week. My daughter is 14, but they were in elementary school when I got diagnosed. And so they would come home and I would get home from work and I would just lay down before I was supposed to make dinner and I would just fall asleep. And then, of course, we all know like we're supposed to exercise, we're supposed to do this and that. And I was just like, I don't even feel good asking people to exercise to the level that I do because I remember how it was when I was like literally just trying to make it minute to minute, moment to moment. And I was somebody who loved to talk. I obviously love to talk in general, but I mean, public speaking was like my thing. But as soon as everybody's looking at me, like my hand starts tremoring, it's like my medication just doesn't work. And it makes it hard to do the things that I love. And that just sucks. I mean, I say like, okay, I'm going to keep doing it, but it really, really wears on your health. And so I'm trying to do less, but it's really, really hard because that's not my personality type. But my body is just like screaming at me, like, stay in your house, girl. Don't go out there. Tigers are going to eat you.
Everything you guys were saying is exactly, what I go through. My name is Nicole, and I was diagnosed at 44, 9 years ago. And I've been lucky enough that after the pandemic, I work for a nonprofit, and we all decided to work from home. So that really was my saving grace for symptoms. So I'm like, I can handle this. I don't have that much stress. Well, lately, my medication, I've had to go through a medication change, so it's not working as well. And just yesterday, I was driving my 16-year-old who just got a license in his own car. And this appointment that we were going to was really far away. It's about 40 minutes away in the freeway. And I was telling him how I did trust him, but I didn't want him to go by himself. So I'm driving and I'm saying, I'm driving you, but I feel safe that we can go this way, but not on the freeway. I don't feel safe to go on the freeway right now. And so, as a 16-year-old does, he started to imitate, and I'm telling him, turn on the music. Let's just listen to instrumental music and just don't talk. Don't talk to me. Just let me, I can't multitask. 'Cause so I'm driving. And so he imitated me and he grabbed the steering wheel and he's like, drive, making fun and stuff. And I said, are you making fun of me? And he said, no, Mom, if I was making fun of you, I'd do this. And so I'm like, as soon as I get there, I'm going to punch you because I didn't even feel safe enough to let go of the steering wheel. But he was right. I was doing all that. And so, you have to look at it the funny way, but at the same time, yeah, all that stress hits you. And I'm going through that medication change. I'm going through my body feeling weird and getting all these, the dyskinesia dance that I don't know, it loves rhythm. So, it's all that going along with life, along with dinner, along with keeping your laundry ready, along with, if you miss one laundry that day, you don't have towels. So so we have, and I have all boys. So it's either me or me, or they just dry with hand towels. So I gotta do something about it too. So thank you for letting me share.
Well, I feel lucky that I got Parkinson's later in life. I guess I'm more the traditional person, but I got it when I was 62 and I was just about ready to retire or thinking about retiring. So, and our kids were grown. And I mean, to deal with all the stuff that young onset Parkinson's folks have to deal with, all you get the ones you all are identifying, it sounds just really challenging in terms of bringing up kids and trying to keep a job. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I couldn't take a nap every day and just sort of when you're retired, you can basically organize your life the way you want to do it. And it's not possible if you're 45 years old and you have a family and you need to work and you need to have some insurance. Some people are lucky and they don't have to work, but most people, have to work and have to find a way to make it happen. It's just very challenging.
I'm
Stan, you bring up a good point because that was actually one of my main concerns when I got diagnosed was like, so I'm gonna work until I can retire, and then when I retire, it's just gonna be because I can't function anymore. Like I don't get to travel and enjoy retirement. It's gonna be literally because I cannot do anything anymore. And that was something that's very hard to cope with. And I am a single mom, so it's not like I can quit or just not work. I have to if I want to feed. And if any of you have seen my older son, um, he is a big boy.
Hmm.
He's six
Your grocery
two,
bill must be crazy.
and the little one I think eats more than the big one. So I
Because
it's
he's growing, Amber. He's catching up to
I
his
can't,
brother.
I can't. But yeah, it's a struggle. And then with work, unfortunately, I was telling my best friend today that this is the only time I really get off because whenever I'm at work, the only time I take off is because I'm having a bad off day and bad Parkinson's day. So I don't get like vacation time or time to just relax. It's time that I have to take off because I'm not feeling well. And that's a nightmare within its own regard. So,
I think that listening to y'all, I don't work any longer in my career, but like you, Esther, I work harder than I did work in other ways. Um, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's when I was 47, and I haven't exactly shared this, but it seems a little bit organic right now. My Parkinsonism over years, I just haven't been progressing the way other people have been progressing, and I think there's some thought that I have a non-degenerative form of Parkinsonism, whether it's a dystonia syndrome or another cause. But I have weaned down until off of my Parkinson's medication, and that has caused a lot of challenges and learning how to manage my Parkinsonism in a completely different way. Uh, One of the things I discovered is that I was electively taking on a great deal of stress that through joyful things that I love, and I've learned that it's my great responsibility to myself and my own health to have more balance in my life that makes a big difference to my quality of life and anxiety level, and that's what really impacts my symptoms the most. Um, so I'm trying to find this new normal for myself, which I learn a lot from other people, but I feel a little bit out there and less understanding how to best help myself because most of the people I surround myself by with Parkinsonism are having levodopa responsive Parkinsonism. So it's interesting for me. So if anybody has that experience, I'd love to hear about it in the chat.
Yeah, Karen, thanks for sharing that experience. I was actually thinking something along those lines, and I don't want to pass by what you just shared without commenting on it. That sounds like, on the one hand, non-degenerative sounds good. On the other hand, holy smokes, I mean, there's a lot to unpack about that generally about what that would mean. But just for you, that sounds like what a change. I mean, that sounds really like a big upheaval.
It has been, and I know there, you know, it's hard to diagnose Parkinson's in a sense for a lot of people. Like Esther, you were saying it takes longer for women. In my case, it just sometimes you just do have to watch someone over time. Um, And it's hard because you want answers now. Like, what's my life going to look like, Amber, down the road? Or, how fast am I going to degenerate? Or what's going to help me the most? And what trials can I be, part of? And I feel like I'm in a new space now of trying to sort of enjoy this not perhaps progressing the way that I see my friends progressing. And so I feel a bit of like I've built a lot of my life around this sort of fact. And now I'm learning that I just have to be open to the fact that we don't all have Parkinsonism from idiopathic Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, I do a lot of volunteering in the research space. I just got back from International Movement Disorder Society's conference in Houston, and um, I I think that when I got diagnosed, because I got diagnosed with MS first, and like Kat said, like anxiety first, and then essential tremor, compartmental syndrome, then finally Parkinson's. I was so happy to have that label because I felt like, okay, now I know what this is. Then I can like game plan it. I can have a plan. But now looking back, I think that was a mistake on my part because I remember one neurologist in particular telling me, "Why do you want a diagnosis so bad? Like this isn't doesn't have a cure anyway." And that felt so offensive to me. But now I feel like I'm not as attached to the diagnosis itself because of, like you said, and I bring up the research because the fact of the matter is they don't understand the brain. I mean, they don't understand basic fundamental scientific things about this condition. And we are very different and heterogeneous. And so I try to not really hold on to that label of neurodegeneration because I think it's not helpful for my mindset, you know. And I know it's probably not popular, but I mean, I don't know what my future holds. So why do I hold on to that label um and online and stuff, a lot of us talk about like being neurospicy. I feel like I'm not neurodegenerative. I'm just neurospicy. And there's always community here. That's the beautiful thing. 30% of people within the first year of Parkinson's do get misdiagnosed. And so it is a journey. And when that happens to our friends and they, end up having an atypical or something else, or maybe they just never find that label, there's still community here for them and friendship. And that's a beautiful thing.
It's such a comfort to hear you say that. Chris has been saying that to me and other people that I've shared that with. And I even said to Chris, well, should I drop off the panel if it's not certain that I have, you know, classic Parkinson disease? And he's like, no, what's changed between yesterday and today? You live with Parkinsonism. And so it's so true. I don't know why I felt that way, but a lot of people in the audience, and then what you're saying, and a lot of
Also, what you
friends.
said at the end, what you said about at the end of your statement earlier was that you had changed your medication dosing and that was like you're making these adjustments. And Amber had just talked about the medication situation changing for her. It's exactly the same problem, really. I mean, it's the opposite direction maybe, but it's still a real issue that is really hard to navigate.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say this for those out there that maybe don't fit the perfect square about why they live with certain challenge. You do have a home here and you have a home in this community, and the foundation and us as the panelists and many other people care about you and your particular situation. It's all individualized. So I'm saying that more to hear it myself in this moment, but I realize like that needs to be said for a lot of other people.
We don't care what box you check or what box you put yourself into. We're all just trying to do the best we can and adjust in the moment, whether we're 50, whether we're 500 years old, right? We're all just pivoting and trying to do our best and find a little joy in the day and try to be more comfortable and work as long as we can, try to not work as hard. It's a constant juggle. Try to put food on the table, Amber, try to make ends meet. It is, we're all sharing that collective experience, which has so many question marks. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I'm
sometimes
glad you're
I,
here, Karen. I'm glad you're here, Esther. I'm glad everybody on the panels here and all of our guests are here because we're all having our own experience.
And sometimes I feel like more and more I'm moving away from the term young onset Parkinson's to early onset Parkinson's because what I'm finding is that, I mean, first of all, when I first heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm young. Like, nobody says that about me anymore. My kids are like, if you're middle aged, you're going to have to live to be 102. So you also have to stop saying that. But because I find a lot of people, um, especially when they get older with YOPD, they feel like that this isn't their community. And we always say like once YOPD, always YOPD. You know, you can be 70 with YOPD, or you can be 30. But also because of the cutoffs, like usually we go by like 50, and then people sometimes feel like, well, I'm 52, or well, I got diagnosed at 53, but I had symptoms at 48. Like there's some body that's going to come and like tackle you and say, oh, you can't call yourself that. And I feel like a lot of YOPD has to do with what stage of life you're in, like whatever I was talking about, like if you're still raising children, if you're still working, because as our stages in life tend to be different too, and that's so much of what makes us YOPD is those kind of more unique challenges.
Or if you're sandwich generation caring for aging parents, which was my case, I had teenagers and a mom with cancer living with us, so it's just that was when I was diagnosed 10 years ago at 48. So it's we're all having our journeys, right?
For those of you that are still in that situation, whether you're caring for someone or you're still working, or you have kids and you're working, or you're caring for your parent and you're working, I wonder if can you pin down what the harder part of that is?
I can tell you when I'm at work, it's work that stresses me out. When I'm at home, it's the kids that stress me out. Sometimes it's when I'm at work, I'm stressed about the kids. Don't even talk to me about when the school calls while I'm at
Oh,
work. I'm a frantic mess. The kids are sick, and then, we're talking about I live 30, 45 minutes away from the school. So I'm thinking, oh my God, now I have to rush over there. And like, am I going to get there in time? Or if there's I've had kid got in a fight, you need to come and pick them up, or I need to meet with you. And like, even that, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if I want to look at their grades right now. It's everything stresses me out.
I wonder, what about the cognitive part of it? I mean, for me, when something comes up, I get all flustered when something new pops on the radar when something else is already going on. I know it's not rare, but is that a thing for you too? Is that like a work, kids, and all those things come up at the same time?
Oh yeah. And even in like conversations like this, I feel like I used to be so I wouldn't say eloquent, but like I could piece together a conversation, and now I'm like somebody asks me something and I'm like, dog, cat, like the basics is all I can get by with. I can't even carry on a conversation. I feel like a normal human anymore. So and then when stress is thrown in, I'm a mess.
yeah. For me,
Yeah.
it happened yesterday. I had a telehealth call because the pills regimen that I got has not been working, and I work out of my computer, and if I can't work the mouse, what the heck am I doing? Something so simple as that, typing. And so when my movement disorder specialist, communicated telehealth, via phone, and she totally talked me off a ledge because I said, "Are you telling me? I mean, tell me right now. Tell me, do I just need to quit my job? What do I need to do?" And she's like, "No, let's just breathe and let's change the medication and let's see how this goes." Because I was thinking, okay, what do I do? Where do I look for a job? Do I go to an occupational therapist to see what other jobs I could do? And my mind is going, okay, I don't, I mean, I was even telling my husband, I said, I don't smell poop anymore. I could go pick up dog poop and I could be, I could be really good at that. But then he was started laughing because when I pick up that, I would pick it up with a scooper, but because I shake, I kind of do the can around, except it's kicked the S around. So I have to put on gloves to pick them up and put them away. So, those things. And he's like, oh my gosh, you haven't even started working there. You don't even have what is
And you're
going
already
on,
stressed about it.
Yeah, I'm awfulizing everything, without even, I'm done. I'm in a ditch. It's just that is also, you make it worse than what it is. My brain is good at that.
But I don't know about you, Amber. I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you, Amber. Like my kids, and even at school and stuff, it's like we joke about stuff so much because, like, there's so much absurdity to this condition, and sometimes they also like try and manipulate it. Like they'll turn in an assignment late or something, they'll get a bad grade and they'll be like, well, I told my teacher that, my mom was having an issue with her Parkinson's and blah 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 blah. I'm like, you cannot use this as like
I
your get
don't
out of
even
jail
I
free
try not
card.
to use it as an excuse and the kids are using it. Yeah. I know my older son is really big about telling like everybody and their mother. My younger son, he's like, "Oh, I don't think they know you have Parkinson's." And I'm like, "Do you talk to your friends?" Like, because I'm worried about like, am I gonna embarrass him if they come over and I'm like shaking or I'm taking them somewhere? Because I spend about 95% of my time driving them around when I hate driving. And Nicole, like you mentioned earlier, my oldest is driving right now, and I get more stressed out when he drives than when I drive. So it's like trying to pick the lesser of the two evils. Like, is it going to be worse if I drive or if you drive? And then I'm like stressed out with that. Um, but I'm like, am I going to embarrass them? And he's like, oh, they don't know. And I'm like, I feel like it's with me, it's noticeable. So I feel like you should probably let them know what's going on so they don't think I'm like having withdrawals or something. Go home and tell their mom, that lady, she's real shaky. And then they think it's something else. When I've met parents, I worry about that. I know Esther and I have talked a lot about that. Like when you're picking up kids from school, you try to wear shirts that say Parkinson's, or I don't know if anybody else does that. Um, I generally don't care unless it has to do with my kids, and then I worry about like, okay, are they gonna think something? Are they gonna get made fun of? Or
Yeah, and now that my kids are teenagers, their friends are online now. They're pretty much all online at some point.
yeah,
And my daughter came and she took my phone the other day. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm blocking all my friends from seeing your Instagram. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm embarrassing for you or something? She's like, no, it's not that. I just don't want them to see you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, but in general, like they're super supportive of it. And so that was kind of surprising to me. I feel like it's almost for me that the needle has tipped, like has shifted a little bit where it's like they just want to be like they want me to be flying under the radar, and they're probably sick of people asking about it because they will now be like, oh my gosh, like your mom's on social media, like she's social media famous or whatever, and I think they just like don't, not embarrassing, but like they're just sick of it. They don't want to have to talk about it anymore. But I was thinking about you the other day. My daughter had a orchestra concert and performance during the day, and she wanted me to do her hair. So she woke me up like really early, and I hadn't medicated, and I was like, I hate those moments where I'm like, I know this is gonna be so hard because it's my kids. I'm like, I can't say no, you know? Like I have to try. So I'm sitting there and my hand gets dystonic and I'm like, I mean, she has so much hair. But I was like, I like have to be able to do this. But I think at some point, some stuff, obviously they're getting older too. So it's like we're kind of progressing together. Like that she'll be able to do more things for herself. And I really do feel like that they're I don't, I hate the narrative of like Parkinson's made me a better parent or something like that, because like that's not my thinking. But I do think it's made my kids more resilient and more independent in certain ways, and more empathetic because they're seeing me struggle. And When I go to their parent teacher conferences and stuff, they're always like, your kids are so nice and they're so kind. And like, what's your secret? And I'm like, Parkinson's, I guess, because I mean, we're kind of all in this together. And there's nothing better than that feeling of accomplishment of having just to be able to do still those really small things for them as long as I possibly can.
Well, Esther, I will tell you that when Chris and I were talking about this topic beforehand, I was telling him, the kids, when I got diagnosed, they were 5 and 7, I think, and they're 15 and 17 now. And they were so sweet, and they would tell me like, "Oh, mommy's tired," blah blah blah. Now they don't care at all. Now that they're teenagers, they see me struggling, and they're like, "She'll figure it out." Like
Yeah.
the other day, I had a horrible, horrible day, and I was like shaking like a leaf, and I broke down into tears, crying. And then my son, he's like, "Okay," I was sweeping, and he like grabbed the broom and he walked me to my bed. But I feel like it took a legit mental breakdown for him to be like, "Okay, mom, you need a timeout." But other than that, they're like, "She'll figure it out. She'll get through it."
Yeah. We joke about that. Like, I feel like literally my arm could like fall off and
Yeah.
they'd just be like, well, you got the other arm. Can you drive me here?
Yes.
Well,
This,
it strikes me that both of you, Amber and Esther, are well spoken, and you really care about your kids, and they're very important to you, and you're doing a great job of parenting in a difficult situation by being open and communicative and trying to explore the different issues that come up. I mean, it's challenging. You can identify the challenges really well, but at the same time, you can do it in a way that encourages your kids to be empathetic and to work with you. And I guess the last thing that teenagers are empathetic, but if you can get some of that out of them, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And to the long term approach is to try to help them be responsible and adults and caring people. And it sounds like with you guys as parents, they're heading that direction because
Yeah.
they're getting the right messages.
Well,
Stan,
thank
that's
you.
beautiful. That's
We
exactly what
needed
I
that.
was thinking. Yeah.
And you brought something up that I hadn't even like thought of, but like, how did everybody else have conversations with their kids about Parkinson's, like whether they're young or old? I mean, from the moment I was diagnosed, or even going through the process, I was talking to my kids about it. Now, whether they really understood the gravity of the situation, whether I do or not, at this point, still, like, I still don't think I have a full understanding of the gravity of what I'm going through. Um, but I've been talking to them from the beginning, but I know that's not the case for everybody, and maybe you guys can provide some insight as to what you told them, when, all that.
Nicole, go for it. Why don't you start and then I'll
Oh,
chime in.
well, mine were 12 and 8. And I told him immediately that, when I found out. And I remember that a couple days later, I don't remember how long later, but we had a PTA conference, and I was supposed to be serving popcorn, and I was really nervous about it. And so I went to my 8-year-old and I said, my 8, now 16, and I said, buddy, have you told, I'm really worried about this, I'm shaking. And he's just, this little cute little self said, I got you, Mama Llama. I told everybody that you shake, but it's not contagious and you're good. And I just thought, how sweet. He fixed it for me. He knew what to do. And just like you guys were mentioning, our children are more resilient, I feel. And they look at things in a funnier way, just like I mentioned him making fun of me driving. And they're not as embarrassed. They just don't care. They're like, whatever, it's no big deal. And on his birthday, which was in January, I said, buddy, you are exactly 8 years since I told you about, me having Parkinson's. So half your life you've known me with Parkinson's. And he's like, well, I hate to break it to you. I don't remember you not having Parkinson's.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know in our house, we had a diagnosis that predated mine by 10 years with a kiddo with a chronic illness. with type 1 diabetes, and he was 8 when he was diagnosed. And so we had a framework as our family that, these illnesses can define us or not. And so it helped me stay off the couch after a prolonged journey there when I was first diagnosed. But I couldn't lay around because I had encouraged him to get up and live his life. So I think it's relevant to any of us, and whether we're, again, 50 or 500 years old, right? We get those choices, and I think taking it a step at a time and knowing none of us are going to be the expert. As soon as we get something figured out, we know it's going to change, whether we have Parkinson's or not, right? Whether we're raising kids or caring for elderly parents or an elderly spouse, or, you have other diseases. It's the same thing. It's you pivot, you fake it till you make it. Um, and I think we're all just doing the best that we can do. And I think Amber and Esther, you guys, and Nicole, you're doing an amazing job. I think your kids are really lucky to have you.
They don't have a choice.
I know, right? That's what I told my kids when they were teenagers. They
You're
now
stuck with
realize
me.
that now that they're in their 20s and 30s. So
I think too, like how your kids are reacting right now, you don't know what seeds are being planted for later. Not that I want to worry you about your children having Parkinson's, but my dad had Parkinson's, and how I was then, I mean, I look up to him so much, and I find myself thinking, learning from his experience and my memory about what I think now about how he was different than about what I thought then. I have a whole different understanding, and it might not be Parkinson's, maybe it's some other challenge or other issue. And you look back on your parent, and you see kind of how they did it for the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you certainly learn from that. Not just parents and children, but all relationships, really.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
Christine just put in the chat a question
Is
about just how we may have navigated this subjects surrounding partners or spouses. And I think it could even be a relevant consideration to other people in your life too. I mean, for me, for example, when I was diagnosed, I didn't, when it first came up, I told my partner that this was what the doctor said might be going on. So it wasn't something we kept from her, but I wasn't keeping it from her. But I mean, boy, it didn't feel great to have to bring that up when it came to the point where it was actually the words were actually said, and that was a really challenging moment. I mean, we talked about it right away, but it was, man, that's hard. So I wonder if anybody has any experience of that, and if there's any stories that we could share about that angle too.
Yeah, I think that, with my husband, the young onset in particular is a different animal because, he sees me in a lot of ways, the same. But then I have periods of time where I have really bad fatigue or dystonia, and it's not super visible. So, like, I have dystonic dyskinesia and I have diphasic dystonic dyskinesia. So, I get it wearing on and wearing off um, about 3 to 4 times a day with every dose. And because it's in my leg, the best way for me to relieve that is to take weight off that leg. And so I will be sitting on the couch and I will be looking completely fine. And he's like, he came home today and he's like, I'm doing all the laundry. I've been doing, all this. Like, why aren't you helping? Why aren't you pitching in? And he's like, you have time to do this. You have time to do that. I know it looks like I'm being lazy, or maybe he thinks that I'm just using my symptoms as an excuse for something. And it's not that he's not empathetic or he doesn't love me. It's just very hard when you have these symptoms that only you can feel and the people around you can't see. And sometimes I get an internal tremor or akathisia or something, and like my body inside is like literally insane. Like I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like trying not to scream, like this is so crazy. And then we're just watching the news, and I just look completely fine. But if you asked me to do something, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd burn the dinner and cut myself with a knife and all of the things that I've done a million times before. And so I spend so much time educating people online But sometimes it's the people in your life that that are, I don't want to say unwilling to be educated, but they think they know. I think that's the part that bothers me sometimes. It's like you think you know, and he does in many ways after almost 30 years together know me better than I know myself because he sees things that I don't see. But I'm I don't want to always be in that position of like trying to explain myself. Like that's not great for a relationship too. And so communication is so important. I'm trying to share, I'm trying to, let him know. But and I'm also trying to look at things more from his perspective because like the first 2 years of my diagnosis, I was so caught up in my own symptoms and my own body. I just really didn't have the headspace to even begin to look at things from his perspective. And once I started to do that, it really changed my thinking because I mean, I would feel the same. I'd be like, look, you have time like 15 minutes ago you were running around making a TikTok and now you can't fold clothes. Like that doesn't even make any sense. I'm actually thinking, Karen, that when we go to DC, that's actually going to be the first time he's probably seen a lot of people with Parkinson's. And I know when I went to the YOPN retreat for young onset last year, and I was in a room with a bunch of people with Parkinson's, there's something so powerful about being in a shared space with a lot of people with the condition. And then you're seeing how everybody is so different, especially like throughout the day as our symptoms ebb and flow and our meds go on and off. And I think that that's going to be a real eye opener to my family about what is my reality.
It's been the
And then
opposite for me with my husband. Um, we went to the World Parkinson's Congress in Japan, and he just was overwhelmed. It was sort of early in my diagnosis. He did not want to be around it. He didn't want to see it. He felt like our whole life was consumed with Parkinson's. He wanted space for himself and his things, not in a selfish way, but he didn't want to do it. And I've had to make a hard decision this year because I was really looking forward to going to the World Parkinson's Congress. I thought I'll never miss it on earth. And he decided that he wanted to take a vacation to Mexico with friends. And I had to put him first for a bit because he did, I just feel like that's the right thing to do in our marriage and to take a step back from the Parkinson's stuff and sort of focus on him for a while. But it's just been that for me. But I'm really curious, Robert, because we haven't heard a lot from you and
Well, I
you
just
have something
wanted
to say.
to touch base. We've talked a lot about family today, and I'm single. I don't have children. I don't have parents to care for. I don't have a spouse. Um, I don't really have anybody besides myself to care for, which which is okay. Um, but I recently had kind of an evolution in how I'm thinking about my Parkinson's. And I used to fight really hard to, if you do all the exercising that you're supposed to do the aerobics and the weights and the blah, 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 and blah, and you're supposed to eat right and all the different things that we're supposed to do to keep our Parkinson's in check. And I think I was stressing myself out over that because it's hard to do everything. And we're dealing with needing to take naps and all of that. And I had a switch in my mind where like I'm not fighting this anymore. I think I started off fighting my Parkinson's and I'm going to beat this thing and I'm going to be a survivor. And I'm taking it more just as it comes. I do the best that I can, but whatever the outcome is, it's okay. And so I just wanted to speak up for those that are single and not having to deal with these other relationship issues. You still have the relationship with yourself that you have to deal with, and you have to learn to be kind and generous to yourself, and not stress out. That's just a little thought I had.
I think sometimes that's the hardest thing is to be generous with yourself no matter what you're dealing with. If it's just you on your own, if you're dealing with other family members or friends or kids, or it's hard to be gracious with yourself.
And I think we all try to do what's right, Robert. It really resonates with me that we're doing all the things and it still is a progressive disease, right? And so is aging, right? We're none of us are getting out of this alive. I know I've said that before, so it's forgive me, but reminding us all. But it, I think the grace that comes with being diagnosed longer and longer is important because I think it takes a lot of energy in that fight mode, right? It's the do, the go, go, go. Let's do the very best we can and let's not beat ourselves up at the end of the day, or have we can be our own best friends or our own worst enemies, right? Even with if you have family in your house or not, you spend time doing that to yourself. So thank you so much for that perspective. It's powerful.
Robert, I wonder if I can
And
ask you a follow-up, and I hope I don't put you on the spot by doing this. I think I'm sometimes a little bit of an asshole, and to the people in my life that I'm close with, because I'm focusing so much on other things all the time that I'm not really taking care of myself enough. So I end up cranky by the end of the day, or I end up just being a little short with the people that I are really the most important parts of my life, really. And so I wonder if you have any tips for me based on your experience of having done that work a little bit for yourself, because I'm not doing that and I really need to. And I wonder if you can help me think about how I could do that better. Is that a fair question to ask you?
So I don't have good answers, Chris, but I think my current answer to that is what I said about having shifted my viewpoint to be more more generous to myself, to have more grace with it's okay that I didn't get that walk in today, or is it okay? It's okay that I didn't make it to the gym today. I still want to try to do those things, and I try to keep a schedule of when I'm going to do those things. But it's okay for us to don't be stressed at the end of the day. It's okay what you've done. We can only do so much.
Yeah, I was wondering if the schedule was going to be a part of the answer because I'm finding that that's helpful to me to sort of keep a list of things that I want to do and then
Mm-hmm.
make sure I sort of vary the results of when I put a check mark on that row. You know, if today I didn't exercise, that's a shame, but I did this instead, and then it gives me a sense of what I have done instead of what I didn't do and what I regret doing. You know, maybe for another example.
well,
I think
what
that's a
other
great
This
thought.
this reminds me of the discussion last month about resilience, about having good self-esteem and um, thinking, positive thoughts about yourself is an important part of dealing with Parkinson's.
do you guys think that the amount of non-Parkinson's stuff, I mean, some of us, like you have kids and a job and a family and parents to take care of. I mean, there doesn't leave a lot of space for other stuff, but I feel like having other stuff, whether it's a mental space, a focus, a value, an interest, helps us, or me anyway, not to be so self-absorbed about Parkinsonism. Because it can be take over your whole life. I mean, it takes over every minute when your meds are working, when they're not working, what you're doing, the exercise, your schedule. It's like how much, I'm curious to the panel, how much other space do you have for hobbies, for interests, for outside Parkinson's life, painting, or you know, going to the animal shelter, like whatever. I'm curious.
That's actually what I
Well,
was going to talk about with Robert was the fact that he's able to do all those things. I feel like because I have work, because I have kids, because I have all of that, it forces me out of the apathy sometimes. It
Mm.
makes me do things that I wouldn't normally do. So the fact that Robert, that you can do that and hold yourself accountable for those things without having the pressures of society on you to do the things, I think that's incredible. I feel like the only reason I do things sometimes is because I have to. Like I have to get up and I have to feed the kids or take them to school or I have to go to work. It's not, I don't have a lot of time because everything takes up so much time to do things that I want to do. I've even taken a step back from advocacy. Like I said, we both TikTok. I have not done it in a long time because I feel like I spend so much time talking about Parkinson's that that's all that is in my brain all the time on top of like the fact that you're living with it and then you're talking about it all the time. And then I feel like all I'm doing is focusing on like, is that worse? Is that a symptom of Parkinson's? Is it progressing? Is it this? And it's just not good for my mental health.
Yeah,
and
don't we
and
owe
I
ourselves that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, like, I made a really, really concerted effort the end of last year because I had totally burned out on my advocacy stuff. And social media for me started as something fun. Like, it was a hobby, it was a creative outlet. And that over time became work as well. And so I said, I have to prioritize my friendships. I have to spend time with people, whether it's just getting coffee, whatever. Amber can attest to this. I, s- I call her, like, I jokingly refer to myself as her stalker because I'm like constantly like, do you want to hang out? Like, come over to my
And I
house.
need that because then I won't.
She finally came over to my house. We got tickets to a comedy show that we're going to go to. Like, but with Parkinson's, you have to, I mean, I don't want to say schedule it, but I have to have like a list of like priorities. Otherwise, with the apathy, my default is just to do literally nothing. And I wasn't like that before, and it's really frustrating. And I had to remind myself, like, even though it's hard, like sometimes even just to put on my shoes to go out is like, I don't even want to deal with
Yeah,
that. Like,
not worth it.
I'll go to the grocery store and then I'll just like sit in the parking lot and then I'll just like leave because just the stress of like going into the store, it's like I'm not even going to deal with that. But having that sort of routine and to-do list of like, okay, this week I'm going to reach out to at least one of my friends with, if they're a person with Parkinson's, you're going to need to have at least 7 texts before they will agree to do it. But like prioritizing that because it's so good for my soul. And then I always come home and I'm like, why didn't I do that more? Because like I cannot trust my brain. My brain is like, no, don't do that. You're fine by yourself. Just be a hermit and go live in a cabin in the woods. But we have to just like exercise, just like, drinking water, just like taking your whatever your stuff is, like you have to make it part of your routine. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate that message, Esther, because it's one of the things that I both love about the Davis Phinney Foundation, and one of the things I think that I don't get to do as much as I would like. But one of the real blessings for me is that I get to get in touch with so many people that become friends with me, and not even only because of Parkinson's. I mean, it may be how we met, but it's not only, it doesn't stay there. I just get to meet so many great people. I appreciate Amber, you bringing this topic to the table today. I think we went a lot of interesting directions. We didn't get to the women in Parkinson's, especially the women in young onset Parkinson's, but we can come back to that at another time. And in the meantime, we're at the hour mark, so I think we'll wrap up for today. And Karen, I also want to say thank you to you for sharing that what you shared about your own experience this month. And yeah, I hope we'll hear more about that down the line too. Thanks, panelists. Thanks, audience. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime, take care, everybody.